On Christmas Eve, Fritz and Mary were looking forward to unpacking their presents. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. It was their uncle with a bunch of gifts in his hands. The children were very happy to see him. Then they began to unpack the presents. Mary got fancy dolls, toy dishes, and a beautiful silk dress. Fritz also got what he wanted, a magnificent horse and a mouse king. Mary noticed that there was a soldier under the tree. It was the Nutcracker, designed to neatly crunch hard nuts. The girl really liked it. But Fritz said it was his gift and tried to take it from his sister. The children stretched the Nutcracker so far that they tore his arm off. The broken toy became unnecessary for the boy. Mary was very upset and burst into tears. But my uncle was able to repair the soldier. The girl was happy and hugged him gently. The day was very busy, so she soon got tired and fell asleep right under the tree. During her sleep, Mary heard strange sounds. They were like mouse fuss. The girl opened her eyes. The objects in the house seemed much larger than they were. And the tree under which she fell asleep became absolutely gigantic. Mary realized that it was not the objects that had increased, but that she had decreased. Suddenly, the Mouse King with his army appeared before the eyes of the astonished girl. Mary was very frightened and wanted to run away. But the giant mice stopped her. And then a miracle happened. The Nutcracker jumped to his feet and grabbed the girl. They instantly climbed the tree to the bookshelf, and along it got to Fritz's toys. There was a whole collection of tin soldiers. The Nutcracker called for help. The soldiers immediately jumped to their feet and ran after him. The Nutcracker took command of the army, and the soldiers began to fight the army of the Mouse King. The battle between toys and mice was fierce. But, unfortunately, there were too many mice, and the Nutcracker army began to suffer defeat. Mary saw this and ran out of her hiding place. She threw her shoe at the Mouse King and hit him right in the head, and he fell to the floor unconscious. The rest of the mice realized that the battle was lost and ran away in all directions. Mary ran to the Nutcracker, but he lay unconscious, as he was badly wounded by the Mouse King. The girl thought that he was dead, and began to cry bitterly. And suddenly, a beautiful fairy appeared behind Mary. She decided to help the girl. With a wave of her wand, she revived the Nutcracker. With a second wave of her wand, the fairy turned the soldier into a handsome prince. Mary and Nutcracker looked at each other with loving eyes, and could not take their eyes off. With a wave of her wand for the third time, the fairy took the couple in love to the kingdom of sweets. The trees there were made of candy, and the flowers were made of marmalade. It was a wonderful place. Mary closed her eyes for a second in pleasure. And suddenly, she heard the voice of her mother, who called her by name. Opening her eyes, the girl saw her mother, who looked at her in confusion. Mary also could not understand what was happening. The girl told about her wonderful journey, but her mother only smiled sweetly. Then Mary saw the pewter Nutcracker in her arms. And then she realized that she had slept under the tree all night, and everything that happened to her was just a vivid dream. A few years later, the nephew of their godfather came to visit Mary and Fritz. As soon as he entered the house, the girl almost fell to the floor in surprise. The boy looked like the Nutcracker as 2 drops of water. He also liked Mary at first sight. After some time, they got married, and lived no worse than in the magic kingdom of sweets. Once upon a time, a cunning and narcissistic fox lived in a dense forest. She deceived everyone, so none of the animals trusted her, and did not want to be friends with her. Soon the fox got tired of being alone, and she invited her neighbor Crane to dinner. At first, the crane refused, remembering that the fox cannot be trusted. But the fox convinced him, saying that except for him, none of the animals wants to be friends with her. And most importantly, the fox invited him to become best friends. Crane was glad of this invitation and after a while went to visit. The fox's soup was very aromatic. After setting the table, she sprinkled the food into large plates. The fox invited the crane to the table and began to eat her soup with pleasure. But the crane couldn't taste it out of such a flat dish. He unsuccessfully banged his beak on the plate and in the end remained hungry. The crane was upset, thinking that the fox was very inattentive to him. But he was a guest at her house, so he did not say anything about his resentment. Meanwhile, the fox finished the soup to the last drop. Seeing that the crane was about to leave, she asked in disbelief if he liked the dinner.
No.
The crane politely said goodbye and went home hungry and upset.
Okay.
After a while, the crane decided to teach the fox a good lesson. He went to his girlfriend and politely invited her to dinner. Lisa was very happy with the offer and agreed. Having prepared dinner, the crane took out 2 tall and narrow jugs for himself and the fox. He set the table and put the food in the jugs. By this time the fox had come. She was very hungry. The crane invited the guest to the table, and the friends proceeded to dinner. The fox tried to eat from a narrow jug, but nothing came of it, because the vessel was too narrow. Meanwhile, the crane ate with ease with its long beak. When he finished, he saw the fox trying unsuccessfully to eat. Crane asked if she liked the dinner. But the fox replied that she could not eat anything due to the fact that the jug was too narrow and long. The crane was expecting a similar answer. He reminded the fox that he had left her house hungry because the plate was too flat. And then she realized her mistake. She felt ashamed that she was so inattentive to her neighbor. Lisa apologized and said that she could not even think that he would not be able to eat from such a plate. Crane forgave her and said that henceforth they need to remember their differences. Having said this, he brought a large plate from which the guest could easily eat her dinner. When it was time to say goodbye, the fox got an idea. She asked the crane to take one of his jugs to his home, so that he could easily dine with the fox. The neighbor liked this idea. He praised the fox, saying that if she uses her cunning and ingenuity for good deeds, she will have many friends. The fox and the crane laughed merrily. They have been best friends ever since. After some time, the crane came to say goodbye to its neighbor before heading to warmer lands. Left alone, the fox got bored. But she never forgot the words of the crane. Since then, the fox stopped thinking only about herself and found real friends among other animals in the forest.